Warning: disturbing content, viewer discretion is advised. What's the creepiest or most unexplainable thing you've ever seen that you haven't shared anywhere? Serious, Part 2. My grandfather passed away several years ago, after many years of dialysis. As he aged, we were told this treatment wouldn't last forever and become less effective, and they would have to stop it eventually. He was 83 when he passed, always fit and healthy, and the dialysis kept him going a good few years. He was unwell and taken into hospital, his dialysis was stopped, and we were told it would probably be around 48 to 72 until he passed. So all the family made our way to the hospital and stayed in the room with him as much as we can. They made him comfortable and was plying him with drugs to make sure he wasn't in pain. As he nears the end, he was in and out of a lucid state, most of the time in a slumber, almost living memories, mumbling and muttering. If he woke up, he would stare transfixed at a point on the ceiling, talking to God only knew who, as clear as day, and then he would drift off again. This happened all night. Moments before he passed, he sat up staring at this point on the ceiling, talking clearer than he had for the time we were there. Holding my grandmother's hand, he turns and looks her dead in the eyes and says that they are asking him if he wants to take a message over to anyone. Was there anything she wanted to say to anyone? When my grandmother said there wasn't, he lay back down, closed his eyes, and passed peacefully. The whole room was silent, every single hair on my body on end. I'm not religious but felt I should go straight to church and start praying or something. My mother, who has been a nurse all her life, many years caring for the elderly, told me that when a lot of people die, they focus on a point on the ceiling and talk to whatever is there. Her telling me that didn't help at all. Bizarre. When I was about 8 or so, my family went up to a campsite near a lake. We went with several other families, and they brought their kids too. One thing me and this one kid would do is search the shallow areas for crawdads. As I was searching, I began to venture a way out until the water was up to my waist. The water wasn't too clear, but it also wasn't muddy, and I could see the pale area of the shallows and the darker area where the water dropped off, but I didn't know that at the time. I ended up stepping into the darker, deeper water and began to fall in. Before I could, a pale, slender arm grabbed my leg and pushed me back to the shallows. All I saw was the arm as it sunk back into the deeper water before I skittered back to the shore. I remember it as clear as day, but nothing has ever turned up from that lake, no bodies, no drownings, nothing. My parents still think I made it up. My husband and I were walking in the downtown area of Seaside, Oregon. It was late December, so it was pretty sparse and many shops were closed as it was a Sunday morning as well. I stepped into a Celtic shop, and it was filled with people, all of whom became silent when I entered. As soon as I crossed the threshold, I felt heavy and blurry. The lady behind the counter said something to me and tried to hand me a pendant. Immediately, I saw darkness and dread. Everything felt black. I felt like something was pressing on my chest. I had never felt such darkness before. I somehow ran out the door, and as soon as I was on the sidewalk, I was completely fine, as if nothing had happened. My husband wanted to go in because he loves places like that, and it was then I realized that I had no idea why he didn't go in with me in the first place. We were newly married and had been walking with his arm around me, so it was very odd. I just said, "No, we're not going in there," and dragged him away. I have been to Seaside many times since then, and the shop is no longer there, and I cannot find the place where I remember it to be. I used to live in the middle of nowhere. The town had less than 200 people in it. I used to work through the night in one of the metro areas, and it was about a 40-minute drive with about 15 of it on a county road. I used to think I would see shit in the fields, coyotes, deer, etc., all the time. Never thought twice. Well, one morning, I was on my way home, about 3 a.m., and we had a little bridge to cross right before we got to our road. As I'm closing in on crossing the bridge, I can see something pearl white just hanging out in the middle of the road. Thought it was probably a swan and it would move. As I got closer, I realized that swans are not that big. I was in a F-150 and it was at eye level with me. When its wings opened up, it literally covered both lanes of traffic. I swerved to miss it, but hit some of the wing. I slammed on my brakes and turned around. Whatever it was 100% gone without a trace. I never saw it again. If it was a bird, that's the fucking biggest bird I have ever seen. Oh, and I did not alive by anything considered to be a large body of water. I was young, and digital cameras were a new thing. I was obsessed with them, and my mom would buy me a camera, we'd try it and see if we liked it, and if it was shitty, we'd take it back. We purchased a cheap one. Indoor pictures had a red and yellow hue. It had long exposure, so a lot of the times there were streaks and weird stuff. I took a picture of my room one day, and plugged it up to the computer to view the picture. There was a full-blown man wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt with a hat. There were also light streaks in the picture, but he clearly looked different from the imperfections, like there was a man actually there in mid-walking motion. I called my mom right before commenting this to ask if she remembers that. She said she didn't really. I don't believe her because the camera immediately disappeared after this event and she never got me another. When I think about it now, I'm my late 20s, it still makes tears come to my eyes because the house I grew up in was so scary and weird. I've never felt like that in any other home. Something was off. My dorm hall had some weird shit happen, but one of the weirdest was that I went to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. The sink was right next to the entrance, and as I washed my face, I saw and heard the door open and noticed a figure move to the end of the stalls. I figured a girl had just come in to use the bathroom. I dry off my face and begin brushing my teeth but realized I didn't hear anyone else. I checked each stall, and no one was in there. I quickly grabbed my stuff and noped out. Something similar happened to me at my old university. This dorm was always known as the haunted dorm, but it was quiet for the most part, and I really enjoyed living there. Creepy things would occasionally happen there, like sometimes before bed, I'd feel like I was being watched, but it was never intensely scary. Then one day, I'm in the shower, and it's a community bathroom so anyone can come in at any time, and I hear someone open the bathroom door, set something down, and all the while they're humming some song. It's actually kind of pleasant, and I planned on complimenting them when I got out of the shower, but as soon as I get out, the humming stops, and there's no one there. I go out in the hall, and there's no one out there either. I go back in the bathroom, and quickly realize there was no one ever in that bathroom with me to begin with. I told someone else about it who lived in the building with me, but she didn't believe me, so I never really spoke about it again. It was 2014, I think. I got my first job on a really strict company where being late is a crime. So I was never late. But one time, I forgot to set my alarm, and it's already past 7 a.m. I rushed to work and really saw everyone outside rushing too. Felt the morning sun on my skin. When I got on the company premises, there's this long walk we had to take, it's outside. So I just casually walked fast to my office when I noticed that it's getting darker. And the people I'm walking with seem to decrease in number. It's a big company and there's a lot of employees. When I came to the entrance, it got really dark, like early morning dark, and the guards were surprised to see me and told me, "Whoa. You're early." I'm confused. I looked at the time and saw it's only around 6 a.m. I had to wait till 7 a.m. for them to let me inside the office. I was so shocked I just sat there and waited. I'm pretty sure it should be around 8 a.m. already. I didn't tell this to anyone cause it seemed crazy even for me. I tried searching the net for this kind of what they call time slip. I don't know if that's what it was. And up to now, I'm still confused on what happened back then. P.S. I'm not a crazy person. Here's a creepy/weird story. During a road trip from NJ to NC, my friend and I decided we were hungry and went looking for food in a town in Maryland. I don't remember the name of the town, but it felt very strange as soon as we pulled onto the main road, as there didn't seem to be many people out and about. It was the middle of the day, but no one was walking around. There weren't any restaurant food options other than a pizza place, so we pulled up and parked in front of the pizza place. It seemed like everyone in the town must have gone to that pizza place. When we parked the car, everyone in the restaurant turned and looked at our car through the big glass windows. Like, at the same time. They stared at us, we stared at them. It felt so weird that I said, "I don't want to go in there." My friend just nodded at me wide-eyed, and we drove to another town for lunch. Why was seemingly the whole town in that pizza place? What was with the staring? I'm almost a little sorry we didn't go in to find out, but at the same time not sorry at all. I just wanted to do a quick edit because I want to answer everyone's questions, as much as I would like to address them individually. I don't think I will be able. I wish I knew the name of the town. I think I never actually knew it. This story took place 20 years ago. Google wasn't a thing. I think I had a beeper. I was new to driving, so using a paper map my equally young and unexperienced in travel friend and I drove through the western part of Maryland to avoid major cities en route to Asheville, North Carolina. After reading everyone's comments, I agree we probably stumbled on a small town party or a very busy lunch hour. It just felt so scary to us at the time. I agree it seems Lovecrafting/Stephen King-esque. I also hope we weren't going to be on the next day's menu. No, we were two 16 to 17-year-old white girls with dark brown hair. This was midday, I was driving, no headlights. I hope this answers everyone's questions. I'm going to go enjoy Friday night as best as I can, with some Moscow mules, and hope everyone is staying safe. I never make it in time to answer these and have pretty much kept this story to myself. I remember telling one person who told me, "Don't repeat that, don't mess with whatever that was," so I didn't. I guess read at your own risk. When I was 10, I went with my parents to this campground so they could visit their friends. They had a son who I got along with, the same age. Sometimes, however, if there were other kids around, the son would try and pick on me to impress them. Me and the son went fishing, and right as we're about to leave, another kid comes and joins us, and the son immediately starts picking on me. Not wanting to be stuck on a boat and teased, I decided to leave and walk back to the campground by myself. I didn't want to go straight back to my parents because they'd ask why I wasn't with the son, and I didn't want to get into it. So I just walked on this U-shaped road. In the center of the U are campers, and on the other side is woods with a lake around it. At the very center of the U is a park. Perfect, I think I'll just sit on the swings until I think enough time has passed to go back. As I'm on the swings, I notice a path directly across from me. I get up and start walking along this dirt path. There are reeds on either side of me, and I have my hands stretched out as I walk dead center of this path. My hands can just barely touch these reeds unless I move closer to one side. I walk for about 10 minutes, maybe, and I get to this pond. Crystal clear water, and I have this urge to drink it. It looks so refreshing. I kneel down, and suddenly the hairs on the back of my neck go straight up. It was like I snapped back into myself. What am I doing? Why am I about to drink pond water? Why did I walk down this path? I start feeling really uneasy, so I turn around and start walking the same way I came. Let me clarify. There was only one path. Straight. I made no turns, I didn't walk around this pond. I simply walked to the end of the path, got freaked out about something, and turned around. Suddenly all types of bugs were now around. I kept walking, and I noticed the dirt path is getting more and more narrow. The reeds and tall grass are now at my arms, and there's a constant buzzing feeling in my ears from these bugs. The path gets so narrow that I have to walk sideways to avoid the reeds. I yell out help, and I hear a voice ask if I'm okay. I reply, "I'm lost," and a woman says, "Just walk straight, honey. I see you." I see nothing, it's just tall grass and reeds. I walk a few feet and see the road. I am scratched from head to toe, and there's a woman by the playground asking what happened. She takes a Kleenex out of her pocketbook and starts wiping some of the scratches, and I tell her what happened. I look behind me and see no path. I'm at the same park. I'm in front of the swing I was just on. The woman looks at me and tells me that I shouldn't even think about it and to just forget it happened because I'm fine now. But she really emphasized not to talk about it. I've always been on the fence about it. I'm sure there was one path in and one path out. The bugs could have steered me off course. Maybe me being paranoid? Or, something more sinister that nearly trapped me for good. When I was around 15, I had a huge falling out with my parents and moved about 150 miles away from home to live with my aunt on her 500-acre farm in the middle of nowhere. I was home alone at her house often, as she worked and was recently widowed. One afternoon I left my bedroom to walk to the kitchen. When I did, I passed by an unused guest room but was shocked to see a man sitting at the corner of the bed staring out the sliding glass door at the rolling hills of my aunt's property. I paused in the doorway, realizing that this man looked hazy. It was like he wasn't a solid being but a thick mist made up of natural colors, difficult to explain, but everything was colored normally. He was just sitting there, leaned over a bit with his elbows on his knees, clenching and rubbing his hands. He turned slowly and looked at me, and by that time, I had come to my senses and ran to the garage. I was terrified and thought I was losing my mind. But as I gathered myself, I realized the man looked like my grandpa, who I had only ever seen a few pictures of because he died 5 years before I was born. After I calmed down, I bravely went back to the hall where the guest room was and shut the door. My family has generally talked down about ghost stories and sightings for religious reasons, so I was somewhat afraid to tell my aunt what I saw. I primed my question, focusing it on her recently passed husband. "Do you think if spirits did exist, he would come to visit you?" She was a bit startled at my question but eventually confessed that she thinks her husband does visit her. She said, "Sometimes I will walk down the hall, and right by the guest room, I can smell his cologne so strong it's like he's right beside me. I then told her about what I saw and how the man was sitting, and she smiled and said, "I think your grandpa was just checking in on you. He came for a visit once, and that was the room he stayed in. He loved the view." After our conversation, I felt okay about what I saw, and we didn't discuss it any further. A month later, my aunt and I were passing through my hometown on our way to a wedding, and she said that we really should try to have a sit-down with my parents. I agreed, and things were going great when my aunt said, "Tell your dad what you saw in the guest room." I didn't want to because my dad was the main person who was against the talk of ghosts, and this was his dad I was talking about. I gathered the courage to tell my dad, and I showed him exactly how the man was sitting and how he was rubbing his hands. Almost immediately, I could see my dad was about to cry. He looked at my aunt and said, "Dad used to sit like that all the time." My aunt nodded, and then my dad said, "He was always rubbing his hands like that because they ached so bad from arthritis." I never saw my grandpa or a figure like that again. I also have never seen any video footage of my grandfather, only a few pictures. And none of the pictures show him sitting in that manner or rubbing/clenching his hands, so I don't know how my brain would have been able to create that movement that was apparently super accurate. Also, oddly enough, today would have been my grandpa's 111th birthday.